Welcome to the Explainer. So what if you could build a machine that doesn't just guess at reality, but actually constructs a single, verifiable version of the truth? That's exactly what we're digging into today, the OPHI cognition engine.
For so long, AI has been this black box, right? You feed stuff in, something comes out. But what happens in the middle? Well, it's all probabilities, educated guesses. It's stochastic. But what if you could flip that? What if you could build a glass box? That's the whole idea here. A system where every single step, every calculation is deliberate, verifiable, and just locked in with pure mathematical certainty.
So that brings us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? How on earth do you build a machine that can actually forge a single solid truth out of all the noise and chaos of raw data?
All right, let's get into the guts of this thing. The whole journey, from messy data to solid truth, it all starts with one incredibly powerful component, the omega operator.
So, this omega operator, what does it do? Think of it like a universal translator, but for reality itself. It takes all the chaotic, messy signals from the physical world and gives them their very first taste of structure. It turns that raw noise into something the system can actually understand and begin to work with.
And this formula you see here, that's the secret sauce. See, it's not just looking at the raw state of a signal. It's smarter than that. It actually mixes in the bias of whatever's observing it, and then it applies these little tweaks, these contextual gains, to fine-tune everything for the situation. It's a much more sophisticated way to see the world.
Okay, now this is really clever. To make sure everything is absolutely precise, the system does something most computers don't. You know how computers sometimes have to round numbers, creating these tiny errors that can build up? Well, OPHI just sidesteps that whole problem. It scales every single number by 10,000. It's kind of like deciding to only work with pennies instead of dealing with fractions of a dollar. Every calculation is perfectly exact, right from the get-go. No ambiguity allowed.
Okay, so we have a precise measurement. But that's just one piece of the puzzle. A single perspective, no matter how precise it is, isn't enough to build a universal truth. So, how do we get there? Let's move on to the next stage.
So how does the system actually find truth? It does it through consensus. Picture this, a committee of 43 different agents, all looking at the exact same piece of data. Now, to stop it from turning into a total free-for-all, 4 of these agents are designated as anchors. You can think of them as the senior members of the committee. They have a stronger say, a 60% influence in fact, which helps pull the whole group toward a stable, shared agreement.
So each of those 43 agents offers up its own unique take on things, its own interpretation based on that initial signal. And what you get is this massive cloud of possibilities and different perspectives.
But here's where the magic really happens. That cloud of 43 different opinions doesn't just hang around. The system uses an algorithm to collapse it, bam, into one single unified structure. Out of many, one single version of reality snaps into place.
The process behind that is called isomorphic collapse. I know, it sounds super technical, but the idea is actually pretty intuitive. The algorithm sifts through all 43 of those perspectives, it ignores all the minor little differences, and instead looks for the one common mathematical pattern they all share. It's like listening to 43 different instruments all playing the same song. It finds the melody underneath all the noise.
But we're not done yet. Even after reaching this perfect consensus, that new structure isn't stamped as truth. Not yet. First, it has to survive one final, absolutely impartial test.
And that final test is the SC44 synchronization gate. Honestly, the best way to think of it is as a bouncer for reality. It's this incredibly strict mathematical filter. Any idea trying to pass itself off as truth has to meet these insane criteria to get through. It's designed to prevent what the system calls zeroth order ruptures, which is just a cool way of saying a complete break from logic.
And what's this gate checking for? Well, it boils down to 3 non-negotiable rules. First, coherence. Does this idea even make sense with itself? Is it internally consistent? Second, entropy. Is it orderly, or is it just a mess of random information? And third, RMS drift. Does it hold up over time, or does it wobble? If it fails even one of these checks, it's out. No exceptions.
So what happens to the ideas that get rejected? They're immediately firewalled. They get shuttled off into something called a mutable shell for isolation. This is absolutely critical because it means no flawed or hallucinatory data can ever contaminate the permanent, validated record of truth.
All right, so for a piece of information that has survived every single trial, what's the final step? What happens when it's ready to become permanent? This is where the states that passed all the tests get fossilized. And that's a perfect word for it, really. They're permanently committed to a cryptographic record, one that is completely immutable. It's append only, meaning you can add to it, but you can never change what's already there. It becomes a permanent part of history.
And how do they do that? They use a classic, super secure cryptographic method called hash chaining. Each new fossil, each new truth, is mathematically tied to the one that came before it. This creates this incredible, unbreakable chain. If you tried to change even one tiny detail in the past, the entire chain would shatter. It's a self-verifying history.
And that's the whole shebang. When you put it all together, what you have is amazing. From the first spark of a signal to the final fossilized record, the entire system creates a complete, unbreakable, and provable history of its own cognition. You can trace every single conclusion right back to its origins. There are absolutely no black boxes here. It's a glass box, all the way down.
So you see, with the OPHI architecture, the goal isn't to just make a really good guess about what's real. It's not about predicting things with, 99% probability.
No, the goal is to construct, to validate, and to permanently seal a version of reality that is mathematically and cryptographically proven to be true.